Could the Space Marines from Warhammer 40K beat the Flood from Halo? Picture this: an Imperial vessel emerges from the warp near a remote star system and detects distress signals from a colony world. When scouts investigate, they find something that doesn't belong in the Warhammer 40K universe: alien spawns, parasitic life forms converting their victims into walking monstrosities, a plague spreading exponentially. Through some cosmic cataclysm, some tear in reality itself, the Flood has crossed between universes and established a foothold on Imperial territory. The Imperium cannot allow this threat to spread. They dispatch a full Space Marine chapter with simple orders: contain, purge, eradicate. The Marines know nothing about this enemy except it's turning humans into something worse than death, and the Flood knows nothing about the genetically modified super soldiers about to face it. But first, we need to establish exactly what each side brings to this fight. The contenders. A Space Marine chapter is 1,000 Astartes, each one a biological masterwork. They have reinforced skeletons, redundant organs, the ability to spit acid and filter toxins. Their power armor is completely enclosed, sealed against environmental hazards, and made of ceramic plates thick enough to withstand anti-tank weapons. The suit isolates them from the outside environment, protecting against gas weapons and harsh atmospheres. Their bolters fire .75 caliber mass reactive rounds. Each bolt is a self-propelled rocket with a hardened diamantine tip and depleted uranium core for armor penetration. The mass reactive detonator triggers a split second after impact, causing the round to explode inside the target. For heavier threats, they carry plasma weapons that superheat matter to stellar temperatures, and flamers that burn at thousands of degrees. The Flood outbreak has reached the coordinated stage. A proto-gravemind has formed, giving the parasites strategic intelligence. Pod infectors leap onto victims and burrow into their nervous systems, assessing their memories and converting them into combat forms. These reanimated corpses serve as ground troops, often retaining the ability to use weapons and vehicles. The Flood's infection vector is its primary weapon. Pod infectors can convert victims in seconds, turning every casualty into another enemy combatant. The proto-gravemind coordinates their efforts, learning from every host it consumes. The colony world has roughly 200,000 human inhabitants. Half are already converted. The Flood has biomass, momentum, and the ability to learn. The battle begins: Space Marine dominance. The chapter deploys in full force. Thunderhawk gunships descend through the atmosphere, deploying squads of Marines into the infected zones. The chapter master establishes a perimeter around the primary hive city and implements total containment protocols. The initial engagement is devastating for the Flood. Pod infectors swarm towards the Marines and they open fire. They leap onto ceramite plates designed to withstand last cannon fire. The infection forms can't penetrate. Their tentacles scrape uselessly against sealed armor joints. Bolter fire tears through combat forms with brutal efficiency. The mass reactive rounds penetrate the reanimated corpses and detonate, liquefying organs and destroying the infection forms controlling them. A single Marine can drop a dozen combat forms in seconds. Carrier forms explode prematurely under sustained fire, their infection form payloads burning in the air before reaching the targets. Flamer units advance behind the bolter teams, incinerating everything organic. The Promethium burns at temperatures that reduce Flood biomass to ash. Nothing survives the cleansing fire. The Marines establish fire-based positions and begin systematically purging operations, sector by sector, building by building. The apothecaries enforce strict protocols. Any Marine wounded is immediately pulled back for treatment. No bodies are left behind. Every fallen Marine is incinerated by their brothers before the Flood can claim their corpse. The chapter is taking 0 casualties and eliminating thousands of Flood forms per hour. With orbital support, the Marines call down lance strikes. Concentrated energy beams from orbit superheat entire city blocks, turning Flood biomass into molten slag. The Thunderhawks provide air superiority, strafing concentrations of combat forms with heavy bolter fire. The chapter is methodically sectioning off the infected zones and purging them completely. In the first 72 hours, the Marines eliminate an estimated 60,000 Flood forms. The chapter master reports to the fleet: containment successful, purge operations proceeding ahead of schedule, victory seems inevitable. The Flood adapts. Turning point. But the proto-gravemind has been watching, learning. Every combat form destroyed gave it information. Every human host consumed gave it knowledge about Imperial tactics, about Space Marines, about weaknesses. The Flood changes its strategy. Combat forms stop charging directly at Marine positions. Instead, they use Imperial Guard weapons scavenged from converted planetary defense forces. Tank forms absorb bolter fire that would annihilate normal combat forms, using their massive bulk as mobile shields. Stalker forms move with terrifying speed, targeting the gaps in Marine formations. Rage forms provide covering fire while others advance. The Gravemind springs its trap. The Marines have been drawn deep into the Hive City, pursuing what they believed were scattered Flood remnants. Suddenly, Flood forces surge from sewers, from buildings, from above and below, simultaneously. This is a coordinated ambush using combined arms tactics. A tactical squad is cut off in a narrow corridor. Tank forms block both exits, while Stalker forms attack from above, targeting helmet seals and armor joints. The Marines fight with controlled aggression, but the sheer mass of the Flood biomass overwhelms their position. 3 Marines fall. The Flood drags the bodies away before their brothers can incinerate them. Minutes later, those 3 Marines return as combat forms. The infection forms have reanimated corpses that have redundant hearts, enhanced musculature, and partially functional power armor. These things are monsters. They move faster than normal combat forms, hit harder, and tank more damage. The Chapter Master receives reports from multiple sectors. Marines are taking casualties. The Flood is adapting faster than anticipated. The Proto-Gravemind is learning Space Marine tactics in real time, accessing combat doctrine from consumed hosts, and countering their formations. The Flood has begun using infected civilians as bait, positioning them to draw Marines into kill zones. When rescue teams deploy, they're ambushed by pure forms and combat forms using looted heavy weapons. The Marines lose squad after squad. The chapter has lost 47 battle brothers in 6 hours. Those 47 corpses are now 47 Flood combat forms with Astartes capabilities. The infection is feeding on their own strength, turning their dead into weapons against them. The desperate gambit. The chapter master makes a critical decision. They're not winning this battle on the ground. The Flood's exponential growth means time is the enemy. Every hour they remain engaged, they risk losing more Marines to conversion. He calls for immediate strategic withdrawal and orbital bombardment. The Marines begin fighting their way back to extraction points. This is when the Flood commits everything. Thousands of combat forms surge towards the retreating Astartes. Pure forms morph and adapt, trying to cut off escape routes. The Gravemind knows the Marines are retreating and is determined to claim as many bodies as possible. The Marines establish a defensive perimeter around the primary landing zone. Heavy bolters lay down suppressing fire while tactical squads conduct fighting withdrawals by squad, one unit covering while another pulls back. The discipline is perfect, but the Flood numbers are overwhelming. The gunships achieve liftoff with combat forms clinging to their hulls, only to be burned away by re-entry heat as they climb to orbit. A dreadnought, ancient even by chapter standards, holds a critical choke point alone. Thousands of combat forms crash against him like waves. The dreadnought's final transmission is a prayer to the Emperor before Flood biomass engulfs his sarcophagus. From orbit, the chapter master orders total planetary bombardment, Exterminatus. Cyclonic torpedoes rain down from the fleet. These weapons don't just destroy, they sterilize. The warheads penetrate deep into the planetary crust before detonating, generating massive thermal shockwaves that superheat everything on the surface. The hive cities melt, the oceans boil, the atmosphere burns. The Marines watch from orbit as the planet dies. Every Flood form, every spore, every molecule of infected biomass is reduced to ash and molten rock. When it ends, the planet's surface is glowing slag. No organic matter survives. The Flood outbreak is completely eliminated. Victory is achieved, but at tremendous cost. Those losses will take decades to replace. The Dreadnought cannot be replaced at all. The gene seed from the lost Marines was recovered from some bodies, but 11 sets of gene seed are lost forever. The Inquisition arrives to investigate. They quarantine the fleet, interrogate every Marine who had contact with flood forms, and perform extensive biological screenings. The chapter spends 3 months in quarantine before being cleared. The colony world is declared lost and marked on Imperial charts as forbidden. No vessel will ever visit it again. Could Space Marines beat the Flood? Yes, but it required a willingness to sacrifice an entire world. But in the grim darkness of the far future, that counts as a victory.